Greetings. I am Hasiem Ayali Kimbui. I am a full professor at the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. And yes, everyone, I am back and I want to share my thoughts with regards to race. I had previously shared in my other videos that I would be making subsequent videos talking about a number of ideas, and one of those ideas being race. And so this is the video that I would like to share with you my ideas or my thoughts rather about race. Now, in doing so, in the words of my senior sister, colleague, and friend, Dr. Belay Chinawisu, the purpose here is to get you to think a little bit more about the concept of race, what you may know, what you may not know, and what you understand. The intent here does not call into question the history of race, but that it is important to recognize your intelligence and how that can be used to support your research. You see, we have to think about the concept of race logically, which in turn can help you discover the truth. So let's talk about race. In doing so, it is important that we start off with the definition to gain a clearer understanding and to really allow you to follow my line of reasoning. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, and I'm going to bring this up here on my laptop. So according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, race is any one of the groups that humans are often divided into based on physical traits regarded as common among people of shared ancestry. Again, race is, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, any one of the groups that humans are often divided into based on physical traits regarded as common among people of shared ancestry. Said differently, race is a distinct group of humans belonging to the same genetic stock originating in a common geographical area, excuse me. Notice that, and this is an important point too within the discussion of race, notice what I did. Notice that I provided the dictionary meaning for the term of race and my way of explaining the meaning to bring clarity. The definition and the interpretation share a relatedness. Dr. Kambui, what do you mean that the definition and interpretation share a relatedness? The implication is that in doing so, the that is emblematic of those of us who observe and measure. Something came up on my computer for a moment. My apologies. Okay, there we go. Just trying to get rid of it. I don't know if you'll see it on the video. Probably not. However, I had to get rid of it. As I was sharing, the definition and my interpretation provided to bring clarity as we move forward in the discussion, the implication is emblematic of those who also observe the world and define terms into measurable observation. It's important that we do that. That matters. However, in saying that, those definitions should be consistent across time and also represent what they are intended to measure. You see my point and why I mentioned the definition and then my interpretation and their relatedness, because those definitions are consistent across time and also represent what they are intended to measure. You see, that action is less understood among many of us, scholars, teachers, and researchers, and it holds back our abilities involved in the study of concepts. For example, here in our discussion of race. And so I wanted to also stress that importance within this discussion of race. Given the definition of race, let us uh, think about the following statements. I'm sure that some of you all listening may have heard of both of these statements that I'm going to share, or at least one of the statements. The first statement that I want to share is race is a social construct. You may have heard that race is a social construct. The other statement that I want to share with you all is race is not biological. And so let's go back to the first statement that you may or may not have heard, but now you're hearing it now. Race is a social construct. Well, yes, it is a social construct. Why is race called that? That further would raise the question in my mind, well, what is a social concept? In essence, a concept that is socially constructed means that individuals observe a phenomenon and agree to the perception by putting it into words for further study, such that others, well, themselves and others, can see what is put there. And so, race, like any other concept that we observe in the world, was created. And it was created to organize the study of the variation among human groups. Now, from this statement, which is true, some have arrived at the conclusion, therefore, that race is totally socially constructed. That is not right, uh, and leads further to explanation and evidence of the second statement I mentioned previously. That is, race is not biological. You have a number of individuals propagating this. And for what has been said, I call into question their understanding of the definition along with the scientific method of learning, or themselves finding strategies, and those strategies include theories and methods and definitions also for appropriately investigating questions about race. Let me explain my point. There is a show on YouTube that I watch, and the channel station is Black Power Media. I tune into this early morning show and the discussions at least a couple of times a week. I enjoy the shows and the programming, minus the use of the N word that I hear on occasions. Uh, However, one of the hosts of the show is also a professor by the name of Dr. Jared Ball. And on the show, he mentioned that he wrote a book called The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power. Now, when I first heard the title, not knowing or reading the book, what first came to my mind was this view of another person speaking to our inability to create wealth through our own buying power. However, I was wrong. In part, from what I gather, his argument surrounds the use of the research to confirm or reject statements related to the buying power of African Americans. In a similar way, that example applies to race. It is not that the term race is a problem. However, the term does become a problem, though, because of our obstacle to deny the reality of the term and its relationship to scientific fields of study, such as biology. And so I would say, given those two statements, that race encompasses a social construct and has a biological basis. Now, to further prove my point that race is biological, I will use the well known example of Shiganta Joe. And so you may say as well, Dr. Kimbui, why are you mentioning, you know, Shiganta Joe? I already know about this, and it proves nothing about race being biological. Um, I would say it does, just not in the way you may be accustomed to think and think and discuss the scientific study of race. Um, my understanding of Shikanta Diop and his his research or his study is that, and what I want you to get to understand is that Job understood the concept of race, and also he had a strong grasp of the scientific field of biology and how concepts and themes are organized in that discipline. In effect, in relating to the reality of race and shaping our thinking and understanding, for those that don't know and do know about Shrikanta Diop and his uh, understanding of the concept of race and the field of biology, he conceptualized that skin tone was a fundamental characteristic of race. Now, that doesn't mean that uh, skin tone is the only characteristic, but that it is a shared characteristic among human groups and that it can be studied. And so I want you all to take note of that towards race and the scientific method of learning of human groups, um, and their interactions with one another, relatable to their environment. And so one way of taking note of that and further thinking about the concept of race is the scientific field of, again, of biology. And biology is the scientific study of living things, such as human beings. So, in essence, when those of us say there is no biological basis to race, first, based upon my reasoning, I'm saying that these individuals lack an understanding of the definition of biology, and also importantly, the themes and concepts involved in scientific research. And if you understood those terms, we can study humans found on Earth like a variety of other living things, like dogs, cats, lions, panthers, snakes, etc., from or made up of the most simplest to the most complex cells and molecules, etc. Indeed, as previously mentioned, that's what Shikanti Job did. For example, dealing with his research into how humans function and share a key property of melanin. And again, you see part of our lack of understanding race and the advancement of the concept comes from not understanding terms and not seeing and knowing where to look and process information. And surely I could give you several different studies which I am actually writing on pertaining to the subject of race. However, as my teacher, Dr. Kwabena Asante used to say, he would mention to me, if he told me everything, then I would not learn anything. And so, in a similar way, I challenge you to take it upon yourself to discover the truth about race. Race has a biological basis, and the field of biology has advanced, and there exist other studies relating to the relationship of race and biology. Now, I want to take a step back to um, mentioning Gilles and his study of the shared fundamental characteristic of the molecule of melanin in relationship to the concept of race. We have to be careful not to use the power of definition to be racist, such as with the use of melanin theory. In essence, we have to be mindful that we do not become the very thing that a number of us are trying to solve the problem of, for example, such as racism. And this also relates to another question or idea, another question about, can African Americans be racist? And often the response heard is no, because African Americans have no power. Well, we do have the power to self define. And thus, in this way, we can be racist. We can, for example, use melanin theory, and we have, to discriminate in the same way white racists have used the study of race and intelligence for their racist actions. And so I wanted to bring that point forward as well in my discussion of race. Well, this is actually a good stopping point here. I plan to do another video and maybe perhaps 2 or 3 more because I still have some more thoughts I want to share about race, but I'm going to stop here and I will pick up from here in another video to continue to open your mind around race.